first time since the Russia-Ukraine conflict, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov made contact on the sidelines of the G20 in New Delhi. Moscow says Washington DC sought this contact. It was brief, barely 10 minutes. But the two spoke face to face. Is this a positive first step? And could this mean the spring offensive may be stopped and a settlement found through dialogue? Prime Minister Narendra Modi has repeatedly said the era of war is over. Can India help nudge the two superpowers to talk and find a negotiated settlement? India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan with our top story.
Over a year since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Over a year since this war has threatened to expand into a global conflict. Over a year since temperatures between the US and Russia have hit critical levels. And it's India that's facilitated a break in the ice. That's right, it was on the sidelines of the G20 foreign ministers meet in Delhi that the foreign ministers of the US and Russia finally spoke. The 10-minute contact, not quite a full-fledged meeting, is a major diplomatic milestone, especially since the US and Russia have been engaged in an escalating standoff over Ukraine, even brandishing their nuclear weapons at each other in the year gone by. It's understood that it was Secretary Antony Blinken's office that sought the meeting with his Russian counterpart. But the Russian side agreed to only a brief contact, where the two foreign ministers could chat. But what exactly happened in those crucial 10 minutes? It's unclear what Russia's Lavrov said, but the US State Department did brief reporters that Secretary Blinken informed his Russian counterpart that the US would continue to defend Ukraine for as long as it takes, and also urged Russia to rejoin the START nuclear arms control treaty. From the get-go at the G20 meet, Lavrov has been aggressive, taking every opportunity to lash out at the US and the West in general.
If you believe that the United States has the right to declare a threat to its national interest any place on earth, like they did in Yugoslavia, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, 10,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean, and they have the right to do so, and you don't ask them any questions.
While the United States of America and Russia are at war with each other over the Russia-Ukraine war, it is in India that Blinken and Lavrov found time to speak with each other. A very brief contact, but one that is going to be significant in days to come. It just shows that India is not just a global player, it's also a peacemaker.
That the diplomatic breakthrough happened on Indian soil is no small feat. Much to the humiliation of critics of India's pragmatic neutrality on the Ukraine war, India has managed to play host to what most thought was impossible, a break in the ice between the US and Russia. And however brief that contact was, it comes with hopeful assurance that only diplomacy and not war is the solution to the Ukraine crisis. With Geeta Mohan in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
How significant is this contact? Joining me on India First, Ambassador Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the United States of America. Professor Brahma Chilani is a strategic thinker, author and commentator. My first question is to India Today's Shiv Arur. Shiv, you've been speaking to your sources in the Ministry of External Affairs and strategic analysts. How significant is this contact and the fact that it was in the national capital?
You know, Gaurav, war and diplomacy are always, always shape-shifting, complex issues. So, I don't want to overplay it or underplay it. But let me just start off by saying that, from many countries, leaders, to strategic affairs experts, to journalists, both foreign and Indian, to experts on diplomacy, to all manner of commentators everywhere in the world who had criticized India and taken India to task over its, neutrality on the Ukraine issue, are, mildly humiliated today, to say the least, because it is here on Indian soil that that icebreaker has happened between the United States and Russia. Sure, it was a 10-minute contact, as it were, not a full-fledged meeting between
Okay.
Secretary Blinken and the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. But in those 10 minutes, stands enshrined the first contact between these two superpowers, whose engagement or lack thereof has basically threatened to drown the entire world in conflict over what's happening in Ukraine. Let's not forget that nuclear weapons have been brandished at each other in the last 1 year by these two countries, Russia and the United States. And it is here on Indian soil. There have been opportunities before this in the last 1 year, but it is at the G20 foreign ministers meet in India that Secretary Blinken and Minister Lavrov actually met for those 10 minutes.